Alright, today we're going to be talking about determining the line of reflection through an example problem. The example we're going to be looking at today is to find the line of reflection from triangle ABC to triangle A', B', C'. The first thing we want to do is go ahead and label our points. So we can see by looking at the graph, A is located at -9.5, -5.5. B is located at -5, -3, and C is located at -2, -6. So now we want to do the same thing for our reflected triangle. So starting with our A again, A' is located at 1.5, 5.5. B' is located at -1, 1. And C' is located at 2, -2. Okay, now that we have all our points written down, we need to find the midpoint between each point and its reflection. So for that, we're going to have to recall our midpoint formula. So
here's the midpoint formula that we're going to use. It's going to be x1 plus x2 divided by 2. y1 plus y2 divided by 2. So first we're going to do the midpoint of A to A'. So it's going to be -9.5 plus 1.5 divided by 2. Now we're going to work with the y coordinates, which is -5.5 plus 5.5. All that divided by 2. And this gives us -8 over 2 and 0 over 2. And these simplify to -4, and 0 divided by anything is 0. So that is our midpoint from A to A'. Now we ask that you pause the video and try to find the midpoint of B to B' and C to C', and you can check your work with when you continue on.
now that you've had time to go through and do your work to find the midpoints from B to B' and C to C', for the midpoint of B to B', you should have gotten -3, -1. And for your midpoint of C to C', you should have gotten 0, -4. In case you got lost anywhere, you can see all your work here, and we'll go through it real quick. So for B to B', for your x-coordinate, you should have had -5 plus -1 divided by 2. And for your y-coordinate, you should have -3 plus 1 divided by 2. So that gives you -6 divided by 2 and -2 divided by 2, which is where we get our point -3, -1. So for point C to C', our midpoint, for x we get -2 plus 2 divided by 2, and -6 plus -2 divided by 2. So that will give you 0 divided by 2 and -8 divided by 2, which is where we get our other midpoint, 0, -4. Now that we've found our three midpoints, we're going to go ahead and plot them on our graph. So our midpoint from A to A', we found to be -4, 0. Our midpoint from B to B', we found to be -3, -1. And our midpoint from C to C', we found to be 0, -4. So we now have 3 points, but we know that we're looking for a line since we're looking for our line of reflection. So in order to find the equation of a line, one thing we need to know how to find is our slope. So let's go ahead and review our slope formula. So remember, slope we represent with the letter m. So we have our slope, or our m, equals y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. So we have 3 points, but in order to find our slope, we only need to use 2 of them. So I'm going to go ahead and use the points -4, 0, and 0, -4. So plugging them into our slope equation, we have that our slope is equal to, and we're going to go ahead and use this first point. So we'll have this as our x1, y1, and this one as our x2, y2. So plugging those back in the equation, y2 is negative 4, minus y1 is 0, and for our x's, we have our x2, which is 0, minus our x1, which is negative 4. So that we're going to go ahead and do some of our calculations here. So on top we have negative 4 minus 0 gives us a negative 4. And on the bottom we have 0 minus negative 4, which we could also think of as 0 plus 4. So that'll give us a 4 on the bottom. So now we want to go ahead and do our negative 4 divided by 4 to see that for our slope we end up getting negative 1. Now that we have our slope, we're ready to go ahead and find the equation of our line of reflection.
Now that we have our slope, we are ready to find our formula of our line. So our slope was negative 1. And in this case, we already have our y-intercept at 0, negative 4. So we are going to go ahead and just use slope-intercept form instead of using point-slope, which could also work. So slope-intercept is y equals mx plus b. And we're going to use the point 0 and negative 4, because negative 4 is going to be our b. So we can write our equation as y equals negative x plus negative 4, which we all know we can rewrite as y equals negative x minus negative 4. And now that we have our formula of our line, we're going to go ahead and just graph the line. And we're going to try and use a straight edge to create our line. And now we have created our line of reflection.
Okay, so to review, in order to find our line of reflection, the first thing we did was find our midpoints between our original points and the reflected points. And then we used those midpoints to find the slope and eventually the equation of our line of reflection. So to deepen your understanding of finding the line of reflection, I want you to think about why is it that finding the midpoints created the points that were on our line of reflection. So in other words, how did finding the midpoints help us to create the line of reflection, and why is it that that works? So this is something we want you to think about for the future, and then be prepared to discuss this in class tomorrow.